Hey everyone, it's Mark. This is my recap for Pokémon Journeys episode 135, Pokémon, I'm Glad I Met You, which is an obvious reference to the title of the very first episode of the original series. This was the 1220th episode of the Pokémon anime, and I think the second to last episode of Pokémon Journeys. Let's break it down. The episode starts back at Professor Oak's lab, where Ash has returned to celebrate his victory in the Masters 8 tournament. His Pokemon are all there to celebrate with him, and Professor Oak even recites a poem to commemorate just how far Ash has come. Ash's mother comes in from out of nowhere and is like, "You're probably leaving again already, aren't you?" Moms just always know what their kids are thinking, don't they? It's kind of weird how Ash is like, "Yeah, I'll be leaving for a long time," yet we have no idea where he plans to go. We cut to a very similar scene taking place at the Cerise Park, with Go gathering most of his Pokemon and telling them about how he encountered Mew, but then he sits down and starts pontificating about what he's gonna do next. That's when we jump over to the Cerise lab, where Chloe is asking if Ash and Go have arrived yet. Apparently, the three of them are planning on going camping, and wow, Mimey is looking very tan for some reason. Must have celebrated Ash's big win by sunbathing a little too much. Anyways, Chloe runs off to see Go in the Cerise Park, but she stops to listen to him talking to his Pokemon, and he admits that he plans on going on a new journey, but before Go can say any more, Eevee jumps out of Chloe's arms and interrupts. Go doesn't really mind telling Chloe though, and he explains that after this last meeting with Mew, Go has realized that he needs to get a lot better to one day become a trainer worthy of catching Mew, so he plans on going on a journey alone, taking inspiration from Ash. Chloe asks if Go has told Ash about this, but Go is like, well, he'd just tell me to go for it. But Go is hesitant because he feels like he's kind of just leaving his friend on a whim, and this would almost be like betraying their friendship. This is of course the perfect time for our newest world champion to show up, which shocks Go and Chloe and makes them just kind of stand there awkwardly. Ash tells Go to remember their promise and starts aggressively smiling at him. Go remembers and they share another fist bump as they ask to hear about each other's big accomplishments. Story time is gonna have to wait though, as Chloe jumps in like, "Oh my god, we're gonna miss the bus," and we transition into a montage of them traveling together, and we see Ash and Go explaining their adventures, but we don't hear what they actually have to say. I can only imagine Ash's retelling of his battle against Leon had a lot of wha-bam, zam, zoom, whoosh. They arrive at the forest that Chloe and her family visited 15 episodes ago. Wow, I cannot believe that was already that long ago. Ash and Go are fired up to see so many wild Pokemon, which is exactly what Chloe predicted would happen the last time she was here with her father. After they arrive at their campsite, they go out looking for some kind of food to have for the night. Along the way, they run into different wild Pokemon, and Go, the big nerd, starts reciting information from their Pokedex entries, which Chloe is quick to remind him of how he did this as a little kid, too. Then, Grookey finds an Abra, and as it teleports away, Go is like, oh, that brings back memories, which confuses Chloe. It's flashback time as Go tells the story of how one day he was home alone playing with his dad's Pokedex. Kind of funny that it has the same design as Ash's original Pokedex from back in the day. Anyways, an Abra randomly teleported into Go's apartment, and it occasionally would visit him, although not for very long. One time, Go decided to chase after it once it had teleported, and he found it sitting on a bench in the nearby park. Abra started teleporting again though, and it led Go all the way to his apartment, where he brought Go out to the roof of the building before teleporting away for good. This lengthy and somewhat boring story didn't really accomplish much other than Go telling us that he was home alone a lot as a child. They eventually come across a tree full of berries, which is when a wild Poliwag pops out of nowhere and sprays some of the berries down from the tree using water gun, but one of the berries falls and hits a Spearow on the back of the head, and uh-oh, that's bad news, especially since it has an entire flock of Spearow right there ready to chase after everyone. I thought this was going to lead to Ash and Pikachu shocking all of the Spearow only for Ho-Oh to appear, but well, hold that thought for now, as their chase leads them to the edge of a river where a lone Slowpoke is resting and yawning. Chloe tells Eevee to copy the yawn, and this is surprisingly very effective, with all the Spearow instantly falling asleep, calmly bringing an end to all that chaos. Cut to that evening when everyone is gathered around the campfire, and they get a surprise visit from that same Poliwag, who gives them some berries as a way of saying thanks. How sweet. Now, I probably would not have enjoyed this very much in real life, since I always get eaten alive by mosquitoes when I sit outside at night by a campfire, but these guys are talking about how similar Ash and Pikachu are, and Ash reminisces about all his Pokemon friends, including many of the ones he's given away or released, which was a pretty cool visual to see. Chloe points out that Go and Cinderace are kind of similar to Ash and Pikachu, and that now Go is changed because thanks to his Pokemon, he's not that same kid who used to be alone all the time and say that you just don't need friends. Ash and Go respond to this by telling Chloe how much she has changed since she used to not even like Pokemon, and yeah, you can tell this is a cheesy end of series type scene going on. Let's talk about how much we've all grown and learned together. This brings us another cool visualization though. This time it's Chloe thinking about all the different Eevee trainers she has met, and this includes Serena and Lana. Of course, it's always nice to see them. Then they start talking about some philosophical stuff and how they're so thankful to have met their Pokemon, and then a shooting star flies across the sky, so they all just sit in silence for a second and presumably make a wish. finish. Go breaks the silence by standing up. He wants to tell Ash about his decision to go on a journey, but he absolutely panics and is just like, oh, haha, nothing, sorry. And then like 2 seconds later, Ash just stands up and is like, oh yeah, hey Go, I think I'm gonna go on another journey with Pikachu, okay? Go takes this pretty hard and asks how Ash could do this, and with a tear in his eye, Go says, we're through, and runs off into the woods. Ash is just standing there all stunned, so Chloe fills him in on what Go said to her at the beginning of the episode, and that Go is probably hurt because Ash was the first person to truly accept him as a friend. They run off in search of Go. It started pouring rain, by the way. Chloe even tries calling Go, but he doesn't want to pick up. Thankfully, Cinderace is just like, hey, you big dummy, stop moping around, and it runs off with Go's phone. Cinderace and Pikachu somehow run towards each other, bringing Ash and Go back together by this pond in the middle of the forest. You can tell the animators were really trying hard with the scene. They created such a strange, unnatural glow, but before Ash or Go can even say a word, an even brighter glowing light catches their attention. It looks like something is happening in the tree that's on an island in the middle of the pond. This turns out to be a horde of Metapod who are all evolving into Butterfree at the same time. They fly off together, and I swear, the scene only exists because they thought it would look cool, well, and because it cuts the tension between Ash and Go, as the sight of the Butterfree puts a smile on their faces, and they start playfully bickering about how they each wanted to go on a journey. My favorite part about this was when Go was like, wait, how did you know I wanted to go on a journey too? Chloe? But they're cut off by Go's phone going off. Apparently it still has the technology set up to detect when the weather conditions are perfect for Lugia to appear, because, well, yeah, Lugia appears right in front of them. That was a shock. I was still kind of like, oh, how nice, Lugia is their friend, but the show had some pretty ominous and foreboding music playing during this scene, as you heard at the start of the video, so I guess our heroes didn't really know what Lugia's motives were. The legendary Pokemon starts flying away, almost asking Ash and Go to follow it, which they do, with Chloe following closely behind. Their chase leads them away from the pond. Apparently it stopped raining entirely now, and Ash says he's gonna battle Lugia, while Go says he's going to catch it. Lugia finally stops and faces them after leading the group to the edge of a cliff. Sheesh, I had no clue this crazy of a mountain range was right there. That looks pretty dangerous. I mean, look at how small Lugia is compared to the mountain behind it. Ash and Go call out Lucario and Inteleon to join in on the fun, and the episode comes to an end with Ash and Go declaring that it's time for a raid battle against Lugia. I may as well just get the Team Rocket segment out of the way now. It was exactly what you'd expect. They run into a Quaxly, make some jokes, get blasted off again, and ooh, cool, it's a Paldea starter Pokemon. Okay, anyways, let's talk about this episode. It was nice to have a bit of a slower paced episode for a change. We've had like 7 months of new Pokemon Journeys episodes where almost every single one was either trying to be crazy and mind-blowing or was just a recap. This episode took us back to where Chloe went camping in episode 120 of Pokemon Journeys, one of the rare episodes in that time span that hasn't tried to go all out with the excitement. This episode was more story-based, as we're trying to wrap up everything for Ash, Go, and Chloe in Pokemon Journeys. The episode did a fine job at that. It wasn't the most emotional episode ever because, well, the series just didn't do the best job of getting us invested in Go and Chloe's story arcs. They're not very many people's favorite companions, especially when one of them isn't really even considered a companion at all. With that said, I did appreciate how, unlike in past series when we would see a Pokemon like Piplup or Dedenne run away and cry when it was time to say goodbye to its friends, this time it was Go who filled that role. And that makes sense. Go's character is kind of based on his social awkwardness, and Chloe even said that Ash was basically Go's first true friend, so it makes sense that Go would have a hard time saying goodbye to Ash. Like I mentioned earlier, it is strange that these two have decided to go on new adventures, but we have no clue where they plan on going. I mean, I guess Go just wants to travel around different regions like Ash did, so that doesn't need much explanation. But what about Ash? Is our world champion going to Paldea, somewhere else, or is his story coming to an end? Since we still don't have confirmed details of what's coming next in the anime, it's difficult to tell if this is Ash's time in the Pokemon anime coming to an end, or if the anime is just teasing us and waiting to reveal their big plans publicly at a later time. Plus, we saw both the Diamond and Pearl series as well as XY, and with basically no indication of what Ash was going to do next, so it's not totally unheard of for a series to end this way. It just so happens that outside of the show's story, we are also left in the dark in the real world, since usually we would know by now what's happening next in the anime. I joked earlier about the group of SPEYERE chasing everyone, leading to Ho-Oh showing up, which would have been a full circle moment back to the very first episode of the anime, but instead of Ho-Oh, we got Lugia, so it kind of works still, almost. Instead of comparing this to the beginning of the entire anime, let's think back back to the start of Journeys, and it was another fateful encounter with Lugia that brought Ash and Go together, so it's pretty cool to see Lugia revisit them just as they are about to head their separate ways. The promise of a raid battle was also a great cliffhanger to end the episode, and I think taking all of this into account, I'm giving this episode a 7.5 out of 10 rating. There was plenty of good stuff in this episode, although it did feel like they were kind of stretching out that Aber story in the middle just to fill time. This wasn't the best episode ever by any means. There was a lot of good storytelling, and if this really was the second to last episode of Journeys, then that means next week is going to be the final episode, and the preview sure made it seem like a series finale. As aside from the Lugia raid battle, which I'm guessing will amount to basically nothing, we'll see Team Rocket get a new assignment from Giovanni, and then Ash and Go will leave the Cerise laboratory. I guess Professor Cerise should put out an application for new research fellows then. I should really get started on making the videos I want to put out after Journeys is over. I'm guessing the anime won't be giving us any new content the rest of the year, which is normal. They usually slow down and don't post anything the last couple of weeks each year. And now that I finally beat Pokemon Scarlet, I can get back to putting more time and effort into my videos. Speaking of Pokemon Scarlet, what a fantastic game. I absolutely loved it, and if you've been paying attention, I started using music from the new games as background music in this video. I think I added like 21 new songs to my library to use in videos going forward. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, become a channel member, join my Discord server, follow me on Twitter, you know, all the things I always say, and I'll see you guys next time.